Hey everyone, and welcome back to Why Me, Why Not Me. You know, this series is all about real women, real stories, no filters, no perfect edits, just honest conversation with people I admire deeply. And today's guest is someone who's got one of the biggest hearts I know. She's kind, she's funny, she's insanely talented. She literally hand sketches most thoughtful cards, which we'll come to soon. She also happens to be my dear friend Charm. Charm is someone who's been through her fair share of curveballs, from going through a divorce to the end of a meaningful long distance relationship to navigating self doubt to slowly and powerfully rebuilding herself piece by piece. She's done a fitness cover model challenge, ran her very first half marathon, worked through a knee injury, and in the middle of it all, she still manages to thrive at her job with Apple and just got promoted, by the way. Today's episode is about strength, kindness, recovery, self-love, and what it really means to show up for yourself when life gets hard. So let's get into it. Hi, Charm.
Hey, Anu.
So thank you so much for being here and for speaking and sharing your story, which is not easy to do. I completely understand. But the fact that you're here and to talk about it, it means so much for me and hopefully to everyone listening to your story as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anu. First of all, I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I mean, to be in this lineup of amazing women that are going to be having these conversations with you is just amazing.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think, you come through a part in your life where you feel like at some point you do need to share that story so that others know that they're not alone in their journey as well.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the reason why I was like, okay, let me take this plunge and, just be able to do this with you was a perfect setting to kind of, plunge into it for the first time.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like, I had mentioned this with, again, the other women that I'm talking to, that I did this, I was inspired to do this because of you guys, because of the stories I heard from you, from Z, from Isha, from a lot of other women that I'm yet to talk to. Their stories is what inspired me to do this, because I feel like it is so relatable and people are out there. There are so many like us out there that need to hear it and know that they're not alone and not going through this alone and they're being heard, you know. So let's get started.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so let's jump back into your past a little bit, right?
Sure.
Before you had gotten married, let's know a little more about who Charm was then, and what your dreams were, what you envisioned your future to be at that time.
Yeah. I think for me, I was just thinking about this question, and I don't think I've ever sat down and thought about what I was about and what my identity was before anything has happened in the past few years.
Yeah.
But I know that I've always enjoyed anything that was creative. So when it came to singing, dancing, art, anything like that, that was something that always brought me a lot of joy. I know playing the piano is something that my parents were like, oh yes, you need to play the piano. When the guests come home for a party, oh Charm, why don't you play something on the piano? Not the most enjoyable experience, but I think what I realize now looking back is that that was kind of the start of me enjoying those aspects of creativity, and just that was my outlet. I think when I kind of moved to Dubai, which is almost 17 years ago, I moved here having a certain vision for my life, as any little girl coming from a very Asian kind of upbringing, you have certain visions, but then you also have most of that vision is clouded by what your parents would expect of you. And I think for me, I still had this dream of, being this big career woman, one day getting married, having a family of my own, settling down. And I didn't want the settling down to be the typical type of settling down. But I also still wanted all of that. And I think that was how I kind of envisioned my life when I first moved here. I wanted that career. I wanted to be out there and do things differently, push myself outside of my comfort zone. I mean, this in itself is something totally out of my comfort zone.
Absolutely,
So I think that was just something that I've always envisioned for myself as a woman. And I think it was just an interesting start to my journey. And I think it was very much as I think about it right now, as much as it was my vision, it was also kind of encapsulated in my parents' vision
Okay.
for me and for my life. So I think it was very difficult for me to kind of separate from that. And I think the longer I've been, in life and living it and being independent these past few years, it's kind of pushed me to kind of think about, is this really me? Was this entirely my vision? Was this a vision kind of merged and, entwined in someone else's vision for my life? And I think that was just kind of that journey for me. And I think it's an ongoing journey as well of discovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
definitely.
Having to rediscover, right? And
Exactly.
definitely need to come to that.
Yes.
So now let's jump a little more ahead after your divorce. What was your mindset at that time?
It was a tough divorce. It wasn't the easiest. I haven't really spoken about it. I think a lot of people, when they see me, they don't expect that I have been divorced, because it's not something that I would say is my identity anymore, or I don't think it ever was. It's a notch in my belt of experiences in life. And I think that's the reason why I was like, it was such a journey. It wasn't a pleasant ending to the marriage. It wasn't the marriage that I envisioned for myself. My ex-husband and I, we were together for about 7.5 years. Out of which we were married for 2 when everything kind of unraveled. And what was challenging in that specific time is that I was in between jobs and I had just started my interview process with Apple, actually.
Okay.
So it was a different kind of experience, because it was me trying to find confidence in putting myself out there again into a job industry that was new to me, because my background was always in hospitality.
Okay.
I decided to take the leap of getting outside of that and kind of putting myself out there.
While you're going through something.
While I was going through all of this. And it was not easy. It was a challenge. And my identity, from being something that was entwined with what my family expected of me, it became very entwined with what my expectations were of my ex-husband from me, because once you get married, you're a wife then. And I think that's the thing. When I think about what my identity was in the past, it's always been wife or my sister or daughter or granddaughter. It was never about just me. It was about what I was for other people.
Yes.
And getting through that kind of hurdle in life wasn't easy, but it was something that was almost, I was thrust into it. I literally had started my orientation at Apple at the time when things just took a turn. And I came home one day to an empty home after orientation. I was on such a high of, joining this fantastic new company with this absolute hype of them getting you excited for this new job. And then I came home to an empty house one day.
No one to celebrate with.
No one to celebrate with, not knowing what had taken place. And that was where I was like, oh, okay. And that was the first moment I think I had actually been alone. And it kind of forced me to think. I'm like, how do I feel right now? How does Charm feel right now, And the fact that I felt peace was that aha moment for me.
Okay.
And my best friend, Sam, she kind of reiterated that. She's like, I know you're thinking about a relationship you've been in for 7.5 years. You've invested so much of time, but are you willing to do that for the rest of your life? Because we don't know how long the rest of our lives are going to be.
Yes, exactly.
And that was another like, oh, okay, that's another light bulb moment. Do I want this kind of setting for the rest of my life? Do I want to be this person that doesn't know who I am? And like, am I actually feeling more peaceful and happier right now on my own, alone in this empty house? So that was kind of like this eye-opening moment for me, because as much as I was sad, I was shocked, I just didn't know how to process it. I think even when I remember calling my parents and I said, he's not here anymore. They were just in shock.
You just picked up and left.
Just left. I just came to an empty house and there was a note on the side of my bed. It was the smallest little Post-it note. And I just...
On a Post-it?
Yes, literally that much. And my parents just didn't know what to do. They really didn't know what to do. And they were so far away. They were just helpless. My mom was like, I don't know what to do for you. She had her brother over here, so I did have some family here. got on the phone with them and I was like, this is the thing. And of course, I had been in between jobs for a while. So, and at the time, Apple told me, listen, your first pay is going to come in a month's time. So I was then thinking, oh my word, I had
You have no support
no
financially,
support, no financially,
mentally.
mentally, nothing. And it was just a shock to the system.
Yeah.
But one thing I have always been is I've always been very good at keeping that face in front of others. Not because of, I think it was a mix of embarrassment and shame that comes with our cultures, I think.
Yes.
But more than anything, it was because I didn't want to give that person the satisfaction of taking something from me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give them that satisfaction that they had really hurt me. As much as I was processing it inside, I didn't want to give that satisfaction to someone. So I think it was just a matter of processing that. It was a kind of a back and forth because he came back, left again. It was, almost like I was living in limbo for a good month. But I think when he did come back and the way he treated me after that, it was like, I get it. Like, this is the end of it. Because for me, it was like, you want me to change, but when is the changing going to ever be good enough to meet your expectations, right? And for me, for the longest time, I've always been doing things to meet other people's expectations. So I asked the question, I think for the first time in my life, I asked the question, I'm like, so what happens if what I've done to change for you is not good enough 3 weeks down the line or 3 years down the line? Well, it is what it is, was the answer I got. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, how can I live my life like this? Where I'm, again, doing all of this, changing who I am as an individual for someone else, not having a guarantee that they're going to actually stick around. So every little moment was almost like another little light bulb. It was almost like a trail of light bulbs switching on in my mind, because I was so deep and in a dark place, which I didn't realize I was till I was in that moment.
Yes.
That it was almost like one light bulb had to go one after the other for me to start realizing, oh no, this is not for me. This is not what I want.
Yeah.
And luckily for my parents, although they're very traditional, they're very, I would say, very conservative. And bless them, I love them to bits. They had the right support system on their end back home. Because I think if they didn't have that, it would have been difficult for them to be supportive of me walking away from a marriage.
Yeah.
And I think culturally we know, it's not
about,
done.
it's not just family, it's about what everybody else thinks.
It's more than the family. It's about what society thinks of you.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, why do I care about what society thinks of me? Because they are not living in my house right now, supporting me, trying to pay for my bills. I have to now figure that out, right? But when I had this call with my dad, he was like, you know what? This is my decision. As your father, I wouldn't want you going back to someone like this. But it's your call. Whatever you decide, I support you.
Okay.
And I think when I heard that, I was like, you know what, Dad? Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. It means a lot.
It means a lot. I'm glad that I know that I have your support, because I agree with you. I don't deserve this.
Yeah.
And that was almost like a cementing of, the decision I'd taken was the right one, because I had the backing for it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't easy because obviously being in between jobs and just having started a new one, I wasn't going to get paid anytime soon. I had run out of my savings because during that time, as much as he was providing for me as his wife, he wasn't paying for the last bits of my car loan, for example. So I had to go through all my savings.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I think, and this is another eye-opener, and I want to say this as much as I thought maybe I won't, but I think as women, we tend to give in to a lot of things. And we feel like having our own savings and anything in a marriage, whether we're in a unit or anything, is not right. Or it should be shared.
Yes.
And yes, there are things that should be shared, and what's mine is yours.
Yeah.
All that.
But you should have something set for yourself.
You should have something set for yourself. Not with the anticipation of something not working, but because what if you pass away, your partner passes away?
Yeah.
How are you going to provide for the people you leave behind?
Yes, so true.
And I had seen that so many times where, when my uncles had passed away and my aunts were left, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I don't want to be in that position either.
Yeah.
But every single time I used to save money, he used to have an issue with it. And he's like, oh, well, you have savings. Why don't you dip into that? And unfortunately, I had to dip into my savings at that time to a point where I had depleted it. So I had to move out at some point. The lease was coming up in our apartment. And as much as I had family here, the family wasn't ready to keep me and give me a home or a place to stay. And that was not something I anticipated either, because I was like, well, I can't afford to move anywhere because we all know how much it costs here in Dubai to move anywhere. And I used to feel quite bad about the fact that I didn't get the support I needed from the family. But I understand that in their mind at the time, looking at the reasons they formulated in their mind, they thought it was the right thing for me. But it didn't feel like the right support for me in that moment. And I don't think they thought that far about how it would feel for me as an individual. And I was just very lucky. At the time, I was part of a singing group. I used to be with an all-female a cappella group here in Dubai.
Oh, nice.
I loved it. I had this beautiful set of women that I used to be singing with. And this one wonderful soul, she saved me at that time because I had no place to stay. Of course, she had to convince her husband, listen, she has no place to stay. I know this is not ideal for you, but please let me give her the chance to give her a home, a roof over her head. And they kept me for 3 months. And I gave myself a deadline that 3 months, that's it. I'm moving out because I don't want to overstay my welcome as well.
Yeah. And by then you were in your job and you were
Exactly. So I was hoping that by then I'll be able to save enough, move out, get my own place. But if not for, I think I would say God touching her heart, I don't think anyone would have been in a position to offer me something like that at that time. Because my entire friend circle was my ex-husband's friend circle. So at that point, I literally
felt alone.
I was alone because none of them spoke to me at that point. So I was starting my life from scratch in that sense. So if not for that friendship, if not for that kindness, I don't think I would have had a roof over my head. I don't think I could have managed for those 3 months where I was here navigating a brand new job, brand new role with the most diverse team of people I'd ever worked with. And that's hard to navigate.
And a new industry completely, right?
Exactly.
From what you were doing
in
before.
terms of my work, it was similar, but I had to learn new systems, processes, everything. And it was tough. It was tough to keep face there while learning this new job and also kind of navigating the rest of my life and figuring out what that would look like moving forward. So kind of having that stability or someone to come home to that was a friend and, that comfort was definitely something that was grounding. And honestly, I don't think that would have even happened if not for kind of God watching over me in that moment as well,
Of course.
It was literally divine intervention, really. And that was just that journey. It was daunting, but I think every single situation that took place during that moment in time was just so eye-opening for me and multiple aha moments and light bulb moments. Because it kind of pushed me to realize, hey, I need to now figure out life again. That vision I had for my life, where this career woman, married with a happy family and potentially kids and everything,
has just gone, and now
vanished.
you have to look at how do you get back into that dream again, or do you want that dream again?
Is that my dream in the first place?
You had to reevaluate what your
and that's
identify who you are again.
And I didn't want to be doing that at 30 years old. Hell no, that was not where I wanted to be. So I think that was just such an eye-opener. And it was daunting. It was a different kind of experience altogether. But
I can imagine.
I'm here right now being able to talk about it.
I know.
But it was.
I can imagine. After going through all of that, right? And this is when I had this conversation with you when I was preparing my interview with you to ask, the questions I want to ask, and I'm writing them down, and I'm like, my God, this girl has been has gone through a fair share in her life, and she still has this calm, giving, kind demeanor, this characteristic, this personality that you have is just so inspiring and so amazing and so awe-inspiring. Which takes me to, you decided to start over again. You were in a relationship for almost, 6 years?
Yeah.
A long distance relationship. You invested your time, your heart, your feelings, everything. And that ended unexpectedly
Yeah.
as well. What did you feel then?
Oh, that was a hard one. I think for me, so part of my journey of leaving that marriage as well, I
It
was
might have
just
taken you
adamant.
time.
It
Yeah.
took me time. It took me time, and I was adamant to take that time. I think the general thing with the Asian culture is that they're like, oh, okay, once you're divorced, before things get too complicated, we need to marry you off to your second marriage.
Yeah.
That was the thought process. That's
Yeah.
what
The
everyone
clock is
around me, the
ticking.
clock is ticking. We don't want people to think something's wrong with you. And when I heard these thoughts, I was like, but why does it have to be something wrong with me or that person as well?
Yes.
I mean, with any relationship, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
There are two people responsible for that working or not working.
Yes.
And I think
Like,
it was so
takes two
important.
hands to clap, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was so important for me to reflect and understand what was my role in that marriage failing and that relationship failing. Because for me to be the best version of myself in the next relationship, for my next partner,
You need to reassess
I
on
needed
what
to.
mistakes you made.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
needed to be able to bring my best to the table. And that couldn't happen if I didn't know who I was. And I think in that moment, there were a few things that happened. One was I got to know through my granny. My granny and I are very close, but she's like, oh, mom is looking at a proposal for you. And it just drove me wild. Like the ink hadn't dried on my divorce papers at that point. And this was like a month later. I got on a call with my mom and I was like, Mom, I love you. But if you are looking for a proposal for me, I'm not talking to you ever again. It was harsh.
How did that go?
I think she was shocked. She was very shocked when I said that, because I don't think I've ever been that harsh with my parents ever. And it hurt me to say it, but I needed to say it because I knew I was nowhere near close to having been healed, like not even 1%. And I was like, I cannot go into another relationship this version of myself, because it's not a full person right now.
And it's not fair on the other person either.
Of course,
if you haven't
exactly. And I
completely
was
healed.
very, very conscious of that.
Yeah.
And I even reminded her, because at the latter stages, there were a lot of the conversations with my ex-husband that I recorded because I was worried about the direction it was taking.
Okay.
And when I happened to come across these recordings on my voice notes on my phone, and it was by absolute accident. And I think it was like I had to listen to it. Anu, I kid you not, my voice was so quiet that I couldn't recognize who that person was. And I was like, who is that person? That's not me. I've never been that quiet or that fearful or that scared. I've always been this bold person.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I can't go into something else, that version of myself.
Yeah.
So I think I was like so adamant. I took the time. I took the time to find myself again, be social, meet people, hang out with different people, just get out there and do the things that I enjoyed, you know. And I think that was just such an amazing time because I challenged myself. I took on a chair lady position with my singing group.
Yeah.
That was a year that we actually won the Choir Fest Middle East for the whole of Middle East. And these are the things that happened during that time frame. It was 3 years of being single.
Yeah.
But I wasn't thinking of it as being single for 3 years.
Okay.
It just happened. And then, of course, a relationship came along. I met this person. He's a wonderful man. The experience was tough because of the type of work that he was in. It was dangerous work. So it was dangerous, and it was long distance, and it was not much
Limited
contact,
time
very
with the
limited
person,
time. And when you have limited time, the tendency is that you always want to make those few moments so precious. And you don't want to have fights with this person.
You want to make the full of it. You want to spend
Exactly.
as much as time as you can with him. Yeah.
And you don't want to challenge things either. And again, that's another thing I want to, caution women about. Don't ever stop yourself from
being yourself.
Asking
the questions that you want to ask.
Because I think the biggest learning for me was that from the first time was I didn't listen to my gut. I didn't listen to those, what we call nowadays, red flags that flag in your mind.
Yeah. And you just ignore them.
And you ignore them because you think, no, they, this
is my
get
second
past it.
chance.
This is
I
your
cannot.
second chance. You can make it work. This is something, it's just a quirk you need to get over. But when your gut is alarming you, it's alarming you for a reason.
Yeah.
It's because it's not the right fit for you.
Yeah. Your body and your mind is telling you it's wrong.
It's
and
wrong.
You're ignoring it.
And you're ignoring it. And it's telling you for all the right reasons, because when, yes, people change. I know I have changed over these past 10 years or so. But it comes from a lot of self-awareness and reflection that you can make those changes. And you can't expect to be the one making changes for someone else.
Yes.
Or trying to fix them or trying to change them. Because if it's not in them to change, or they don't see the need to make those changes in that commitment, it will never happen, right? And that's the reason why your gut always warns you.
Yeah.
But fought past it, because when you barely have contact with someone and you trust, and that was probably the biggest takeaway for me. I went into this relationship saying, I'm not going to bring my past into it. I'm not going to worry about not seeing this person often enough to know what they're up to when they're not with me. I'm going to trust wholeheartedly. I'm going to love deeply. And I'm going to love unconditionally. And that was just something I was adamant to do.
Yes.
Because if you truly love someone, it has to be unconditional.
Of course.
Because no one is perfect. No. And if I know I'm not perfect. So if I wanted someone to love me, I would like it to be unconditional.
Yeah, of course.
And there were so many conditions that were put by my ex-husband before. So I was like, I don't want to do that. And I don't want to do that to anyone or be at the receiving end of that either.
Absolutely.
So I trusted. I took the leap of faith, trusted. It went on for 6 years. And I reached
a breaking point.
Breaking point. Yeah. I reached that breaking point where I was like, no, I've compromised or I've sacrificed enough.
Now it's your turn. I need to know.
I need to know what is going on. Where do I stand?
Yeah.
What's the future going to look like? When is the time going to come where you're potentially getting out of this job that is so dangerous, that has me worried for your safety every single day, day in, day out? And by worrying for safety, it's not like someone's driving a long distance to work. It's a risky job.
Yeah.
So it was a different kind of worry all the time. And when I took that call, I kept the door open because I was hoping that after so many years, you met my parents, you met my best friend, I've introduced you to family. I expected it to be at a certain point where he would fight in return. But it was like, okay, I accept your decision. And that was it. And to just get a paragraph of a response after 6 years of putting so much of time and effort, and this is not to say anything bad about anyone, really. It's hard to digest that. And
absolutely, Cham.
It was tough because, again, in this same situation,
I was your ex left with a post-it by your nightstand.
Exactly.
Now, this guy threw a message.
Exactly.
I mean, it's back to back, triggering you, taking you back after you've pulled yourself back up again.
Yeah.
Giving yourself a second chance at love.
Yeah.
And then he responds this way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was also like, so no one is ever going to kind of pick me, and that was the doubt. And that was
question
like,
yourself.
You
think,
question
is there
yourself,
something wrong with me?
Yeah. Granted, that was probably when I decided to walk away that time. That was the first time I realized my worth when I decided to walk away versus with my ex-husband. I didn't know my worth then.
Yeah.
So for me, that was like, okay, that's growth for me.
Yes.
It was also happening again at the same time I was doing a leadership career experience at work.
Yeah, I remember.
I was in the thick of that,
yes.
having to deal with shifts, doing closings and single days off.
And your timings, you were
my
working...
timings were everywhere.
Insane.
Exactly.
I remember that. Yes.
And when this happened in the middle of that, I was like, oh, okay.
You had to focus.
I had to
give your best at that.
I had
that
to.
end while you are battling through
exactly
a lot emotionally.
Exactly. Yeah. And then at the same time, I was thinking, oh no, what's happening now? Like, is this how it was supposed to end? Like, and the worst part, I think, looking back now, I felt guilt because I had to break it off over a text message, which is not me as a person,
Oh, no.
right? It's not me as a person at all. And you know me, Anu.
It should not be that way for
It
anyone.
shouldn't be that way for anyone.
I mean,
but
it's...
I had to break it off a 6-year relationship over a text message. And for me, I felt guilt about that, even though the way he responded should have told me, hey, you know what? It's fine.
Yeah.
But I carried that guilt for the longest time. I think this past half year, I carried that guilt with me because I was like, oh my gosh, that was the worst thing I could have done in my life because I love this person so deeply as well. And it was tough to talk about. If anyone asked me about it, I used to break down in tears,
Yeah.
get emotional thinking about it right now. But I think why it was so much harder is because I walked away while I still was in love with this person.
Yeah.
Whereas with the ex-husband, you kind of lose love when you're put in that
And
position.
you had seen it,
Unraveling.
fade away.
Exactly.
Yeah, unraveling
So
in
it's
front
so
of you.
different, and it's not easy to walk away from that.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important as women to be able to be strong enough to do that.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
takes a lot of courage.
It does.
Because the situation isn't good. Yes, you love the person, but is it worth your time?
Yeah.
Is it worth the short time we live on this earth to give so much to someone who's not even giving you
a little back.
Exactly.
Like even half back.
Exactly.
Yeah. No,
and I
absolutely.
think as women, we all deserve that, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
But we spoke about your divorce and then this long distance relationship, right? And immediately after that, not even, I need to take my own time again. I've been burnt twice. But no, immediately after that, you decided to focus on yourself.
Yeah.
You decided, and the things you have done since then.
Yeah.
Like you did, let's just get into it. Like, let's just talk about all the amazing things you've achieved so far after going through all of this. You did a fitness cover model challenge.
Yes, I did.
And while you were doing that, which is a lot mentally and physically, it's a lot. You decided to even focus on trying to do a half marathon. For someone who doesn't run a lot,
yes,
you decided to do a half marathon. You wanted to challenge yourself. You wanted to prove to yourself that you can do this, and you wanted to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
I think for me, it was like, I have always been a bit of a fighter when it came to surviving.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Again, didn't want to give the satisfaction that someone else had broken me past a point of no return.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. The fitness cover model challenge, what a journey that was. You were my inspiration for that, Anu. Like, when I remember those photos, you look so epic. And I'm like, okay, Anu could do it. I could do it. And I think we need more women like that out there, or to be able to inspire women of even a fitness cover model challenge. I think, I was not in the best headspace when I did it. It was hard.
I know.
I don't think I was the happiest about my results either, because I tend to be very, very hard on myself.
You do. Oh, we actually, we all do.
Yeah. And I think because of that, I was so hard on myself. And I remember Jason was talking to me and was like, why do you think that?
Hey, you look great.
Yes. He's like, why your shots look great. I was like, I just didn't like them. And then I realized that I was almost, not that I really compare myself to others, but I think the tendency is when we see a fitness cover model challenge, there's a specific physique a woman would have.
Yes.
As an athlete. I've never been an athlete. I've never played a sport in my life. I think this past 3 years joining Jason and 365 has been the most active I've been in my life, and has brought me to this amazing community of people.
Oh, same with me and a lot of other women who've joined.
Exactly.
I mean, I have not done half of the 3/4 of the things that I do now.
Exactly.
I've never done before.
And I love that for myself. But also it was like, I don't have that typical physique you would see. I have curves. I have those Asian curves.
Yeah.
And I think it was about me accepting who I was and what I look like, and creating an image of what that could look like in a fit level, right?
Yes.
And I think going into 2025, this is the year of 40. And I wanted to set some solid goals for myself. And one of the goals was being able to accept myself and my body type for what it is. and to be able to make that impact for any other woman who sees that in me,
Yes.
and any little girl who sees that in me.
Yeah.
Because we have grown up in a time where skinny is all that's beautiful.
Yes. Like the muscle, the tone,
Yeah,
the way it looks.
athletic looks
Yeah.
have to look a certain way.
Yes.
Model looks have to look a certain way.
Mhm.
And there's no place for the in between.
Yeah.
And I was adamant to say, you know what, this is the image I want to create before I turn 40. I want to be able to be confident, not just in myself, my shape, my curves, whatever it is that comes with that, so that I can inspire another woman who sees that in themselves.
She looks at herself in the mirror and says, you know what?
I can do this.
Yes.
And same for a little girl, because I think it's so important to build that confidence at a younger age, because that's when those are the formative years when you build your confidence, right? And then I was like, I want to do a half marathon. I don't know what I was thinking. I know I definitely don't run as much as you do, but and I never ran in my life. And I was literally telling Jesus, I said, do you think I can do this?
Yeah.
It was December.
Yeah.
It was literally 2 months out.
Yes, that's true.
And
I remember I signed up for it.
Yes.
I didn't know you signed up for it. And you mentioned around December.
Yes.
I signed up for the half marathon. I'm like, wait a minute, I did too.
Yes.
And I was shocked, because I know that you run, yes, but not as much.
Exactly.
And the fact that you took that decision.
Yes.
Like, I was so impressed, but at the same time I was shocked. I was like, wait a minute.
I know.
Really?
And I was like, and I think that was the thing. I've been talking about it for some time with Jason, and he was like, just do it. Just buy the ticket.
Yes.
Then there's no going back.
Yes, exactly.
And that was how
That's
I
my
approached
theory.
it. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And I think, that's the best way sometimes to,
Yes.
address things in life,
Yeah. Can't get a return. So
Exactly. No refund. And it's not very cheap. So let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
And I signed up for it, got a plan in place, and I just ran. I just ran and ran as much as I could during that time frame. I had to, struggle with knee injuries and, getting treatments for it, and everything was fine. And obviously, I wasn't really necessarily expecting what would happen after, because obviously going into something like that 2 months in, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for anyone else. But definitely have those goals for yourself.
Yes, of course.
But just need more prep time. I think if anyone asks me now, would you do that again? I will definitely say yes.
Yes.
But with a little more preparation.
Yeah.
Just so that my body is not in shock,
But that brings me to, after you did the half marathon,
Yes.
and you were on that high, right?
Yeah.
You finished half marathon. And then your knee had other plans for you.
Of course it did.
And you wanted to do the half marathon again. You said, yes, I will do it again. And you probably wanted to start running more so you can get used to doing the next
Exactly.
half marathon, probably end of the year. But your knee had other plans where
Yes.
you had to start all over again.
Yeah. It was heartbreaking, actually, because the entire time I was prepping, it was my right knee that was just being a little bit niggly with me.
Yeah.
But after the marathon, it became my left knee, and that pain was unbearable.
I remember.
And I still challenged myself, because the day after the marathon, the half marathon, I traveled for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, you went the next day.
Literally the next morning.
I know.
I think a lot of the people on the flight were like, what is this girl doing? She's always standing on her tiptoes, walking about, because I was wanting to make sure I stretched,
Yes.
because I was pretty sore after that
Yes.
half marathon.
Yeah.
But when I came back, I signed up for another race. And during that race, I struggled. I was in pain, but I was so adamant, because for me, it was, I've started something. I'm going to finish it.
Yes.
Even if it means I'm crawling at the finish line, I'm going to finish it.
Yes.
And that's something that I've always just wanted for myself. I'm like, if I'm going to challenge myself to do something, even if it's painful, even if it's challenging, you can finish it. You finish what you start.
Yes, absolutely.
And that was just something I wanted to do. And granted, I probably shouldn't have run that 10K that day. But
I remember this.
Exactly.
Yes.
But after that, I was like, okay, my knee was like, no, I'm not happy with you. You need to slow down.
You need to slow down.
And
You have to listen to your
you
body.
have to. And I think we don't slow down enough, especially in a country like Dubai, where everything is so fast paced, jobs are so fast, everything moves.
You want
at
to
a
keep
pace.
proving to yourself that,
Exactly.
oh, no, I can do this.
You need to always keep up, right? And I think this year has been such a learning for me about the beauty of slowing down. And when you slow down, there's so much of pause, reflection. There is the beauty of listening to your body when you need to listen to it. There's a beauty in doing exercises that are slower,
Yeah.
Stretching more.
Yeah.
Doing a little bit of Pilates amidst
Yeah.
all your strength
I
training and
know.
HIIT
I've been seeing
workouts.
that you're doing that. You're doing Pilates.
Yeah,
You're getting
exactly.
stretches done.
And I'm like, I was thinking, why did I think this was not okay?
yeah.
And I think that tends to happen when you're on this trajectory of trying to recover from, these trials in life.
Yeah. You just
You
focus
just,
on
you keep
the next
focusing.
thing so that
Exactly.
you don't have to deal with whatever you're.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think for me, this year has forced me to slow down, forced me to pause and think about it. I think with all that's gone on in my head, I realized there's need for me to go see someone professionally. And it was the hardest thing to make that decision because I hadn't had the best experience doing that when I was much younger. So for me to get past that hurdle to seek help was hard as well. But I knew that this year that was something I needed to do for myself.
Yes.
Because for me to get complete healing without any other person in my life, as a single woman, I needed to do that for myself.
Of course.
To be stronger, to be the best version of myself going into this new decade.
Yes.
It's just a different kind of challenge. And I think the more we listen to our bodies, the more we listen to our mind and everything and learn that there's beauty in slowing down.
Yeah.
I think that's when you realize that by slowing down, you actually get time to recover and put more into yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
And more into others.
Yeah.
It's like they always say, like, you can't pour into other people till your cup is full, right?
Yes.
Same thing applies in life. And I think you can't give the best of yourself to your job, to your life, to everything you want to achieve in life until you fill it up and fill yourself up with that rest, with sleep, with listening to your body and doing slower movements, and movement is everything, but it doesn't mean that it has to be one type of movement.
No, absolutely not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what everyone gets hung up on nowadays. It's like, oh, do you go to the gym? How often do you work out?
Yeah. Yeah.
I might work out 6 days a week, but for you, it might be fine to do a 4-day workout week.
Exactly.
And that gives you the satisfaction and benefits you need for your body.
Whatever you feel works for you.
Yeah,
do that.
It's not a competition.
It's not a competition.
And I think as women, I think we've been pit against each other for the longest time.
Yeah.
With everything.
Especially with women.
Exactly. And it's always come down to, oh, she's getting more workouts in than me, so that means I need to push myself. She's married with kids, that means I should be married with kids at this age. Oh, but
you keep on trying to compare your life with somebody else.
And then as a married woman,
if she can do that, why can I not be?
Exactly.
Why am I not there yet?
Exactly. And then as a married woman, I can imagine that it's tough as well because they see a single woman living their life. They don't have to think about responsibilities.
The grass is always greener on the other side, right?
Always greener, always greener. But I don't think someone who's in a relationship realizes how someone that's single values seeing those relationships.
Absolutely.
And sees that, oh, you should be so grateful to be in that position because it's lonely on the other side.
It is, yes.
It is very lonely.
Yeah.
And I think it's not by choice. Yes, sometimes it's by choice what we do in life, whether we want to have kids or not, whether we want to be married or not.
Or whether you are able to have.
Exactly. Everything is a choice ultimately. And sometimes it's not a choice.
Yeah. Sometimes
it just happens. It's life.
What destiny has handed you.
Exactly.
With,
But I think it's so important that through life, with every experience, you give compassion and kindness to other people.
Absolutely.
Because if
agree.
you don't, like, the world is going through so much out there.
Yes, kindness is, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, it is just, it's the smallest thing that you can do for someone.
Is be kind.
Be kind. Be compassionate.
Yes. You don't know what the other person's going through.
Exactly.
What their day is like, how their day started, how their day ended.
Exactly.
You don't know.
Yeah. And most of the times people don't feel like they can speak to someone else about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had this conversation recently as well, where I've told you I don't want to burden you with something as a friend.
Yeah.
And that might be something that someone's going through.
Yes, exactly.
But then for you as a friend, you're thinking, why wouldn't you? I'm your friend, right?
I want you to burden me. But
exactly.
The fact that you think that, and you're right to ask that, because sometimes I feel the same as well. Like, it's also, you don't know what the other person's going through, right? So they've had a tough time in that maybe at work, their children, their partners, they've had a tough day,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
you are unburdening yourself.
Yes.
And because they feel like they need to give their best version of their
Yeah.
friendship to you, they try to stifle that. They take on that burden from you. You feel like they've taken on too much, and they need an outlet as well, but they're not doing it because they
Exactly.
feel like you need that help. So
Exactly.
it's that circle, right?
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. I mean,
Yeah.
kindness, compassion,
Yeah.
and trying to understand what the other person's going through is so much more important.
Yes.
And you are the epitome, literal of that, because I've known you for what, 3 years now?
Yeah. 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go into, I mean, you work for Apple now. It's
Mhm.
been a long time, and you've been through a lot, emotionally, mentally. But work-wise, you really pushed yourself, signed up for, did a lot of training programs.
Yes.
And then you finally got it, you got a promotion.
Yes, I did. Yes.
And after everything you've been through and everything, how did that win feel for you?
It was so surreal, Anu, because been with Apple for 10 years and it's
wow.
been 9 years before I got the promotion.
Yeah.
And it's not a typical environment where
Yeah.
in that typical job you would be, I would say, promoted based on performance. But you have a different process entirely
Yes,
at Apple.
of course. I can
Because
imagine.
there's so much of talent that you work with. So they have to have interviews.
Yeah,
to get
internally, right?
Internally, before you can even get that job.
Yeah.
So when I interviewed and actually applied for this role, I know I could do it.
But
there was
whether you
no-
get it or not,
There was no guarantee I would
yes,
get it.
Yes, yeah.
And as much as I had 9 years of experience, a person with 2 years next to me in the next interview could get it over me.
Yes.
And I think one thing that this job has taught me a lot, one is about people and dealing with different people and the beauty of that diversity and understanding that. And also patience. I've always been a patient person, but it requires a different type of patience to be able to pivot your way of thinking
Yeah.
from a certain type of scope of growth to something entirely different.
Yeah.
Then also understanding that unless you do that, nothing's going to change for you. And that's okay. So it's your call. You decide either you change your mindset to work with what you're in, or you decide this is not the place for you and you
Yes.
move on.
True.
And I think of late, there are a lot of colleagues who ask me this question like, oh, I didn't realize you were in your role for so long, because a lot of them get upset about being in roles for so long, right? And I always tell them, I say, but I've been in my role for the longest time. And then they're like, oh, really? I say, but you're amazing. I say, that has nothing to do with it, right? But I think it's all about your mindset.
Yes.
And, when I finally got the promotion, it was surreal. It was such a achievement. It almost felt like, you got to put this nice little flag on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
That you were climbing and struggling up
Yeah.
for
All
the
those
longest
years,
time.
yes.
And
you got there. You
Exactly.
finally reached there.
Reached there.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to share that story with my fellow peers, with all the young people working with me, because it's
Like, don't give up.
Yeah.
If
don't
you
give
want to
up.
get there, you will get there.
Yeah. Whether it is with Apple, whether it's with any other company, whatever you do in life, fight for what you want. Keep fighting for it. Sometimes you might slow down because we can't always give 100% every single day. We also have to realize that what your 200% might be 100% of someone else, but it will look different.
Yeah.
So stop comparing again.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's so much to learn from, a longer process of growth, because it pushes you in very different ways. It makes you
Absolutely.
think about, is this what you want to do? Is this the right way to grow? And I know long term, I want to be a leader. I want to be a leader because the greatest joy I have learned from having done a sales job for the longest time in my life was from my last 2 experiences at Apple, which was in a leadership capacity, where I was able to grow and develop people.
Yeah. And you enjoyed that.
I love that.
Okay.
And if I'm able to give that back in any way to someone, then I know I have really reached that
I think you would do
mountaintop.
perfect on a role like
And
that.
for me, that's the ultimate goal.
Yes.
So it doesn't stop here. Of course, it's a great achievement. Through all of this, the fact that I reached here,
But
I'm
you
proud
are
of
still
myself.
climbing
But I'm
up
still
that ladder.
climbing.
Yeah.
I'm still climbing because till I get there, till I'm able to show what different leadership can look like, or leadership that holds your hand through your process and pulls you up that mountain, I'm not done.
Okay.
And that's just how I see it right now. So as much as it was surreal, as much as it was a great achievement for me amidst everything that has happened, I'm not done. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, so apart from everything that's happening in your life, I love the few hobbies that you have, right?
Oh, yes, my hobbies.
Your hobbies are the most adorable hobbies, and they're quite unique.
Yes.
So I've been to Charm's house several times. So she makes you make these little hand sketched cards for
Yes.
every occasion. It's so personalized and it's so cute.
Yes.
And then you have this hobby of putting Lego together that brings you so much peace. This is like your downtime.
Yes.
And then we both share a passion
Yes, we do.
of again downtime. People think we're crazy that this makes us unwind.
I know.
Reading, watching, listening to crime thrillers and murder mysteries.
Oh my goodness.
And I think that's where we connected.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as soon as I found that connection with you, aside from everything else we connected on, I was like, yes, I found
Finally,
my soul sister.
yes. Psycho soul sister.
Exactly. I'll start with the Murder Mistress. That is something I truly enjoy.
Yeah.
Reading it, watching it.
As the plot thickens.
Plot thickens, the plot twist. I'm like, if anytime I get through a fantastic book that leaves me with my jaw on the floor,
Yeah.
I'm recommending it to you.
Yes, exactly. And I keep doing that with you as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's just something I enjoy. I just enjoy that kind of, uncovering this,
Yes.
kind of mystery.
Yeah.
And I think that has also come with all the things that I've had to uncover in life. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah. And it also switches off your brain from that,
Yes,
from everything else that's
exactly.
happening,
It just
shuts off
takes
from the
you-
world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It takes you to a different world.
Dimension. Yes.
And a different dimension. I think with Lego, I've always been fascinated with Lego. Never got to have Lego growing up. So when I was able to afford it,
Yeah.
oh my word.
Yeah, it's not a very
It's
cheap,
not a cheap hobby. But thanks to Tabby, I got into it quite a bit. But I think when I got into Lego and I realized how much of peace it gave me
Yeah.
to build something from scratch. Again, it felt like I was
Oh.
building life from
Yes.
scratch,
That
And
just
then
shows also what you said, that you're so patient, because I
Yes.
honestly don't have the patience
a lot
for
of
it.
people tell me this. I even made a Lego for someone else because they just
I know
couldn't-
what you're talking
You
about.
know exactly what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. But I just
Bob, it's you.
Yeah, exactly. There we go, Bob. No escaping. But I think it gives me a lot of peace because my work environment is so noisy and busy all the time. When I come home, I get to unwind and it's quiet, it's solitude, it's putting this together and seeing this final product that looks amazing, And I have a few pending to be built, but that's just calming for me. And it's a creative outlet,
Yeah.
Same with my drawing.
Yes.
And I think my drawing started, I've always loved art, but then I went into the music field when I was at school.
Yes, yeah.
And when I found it again this time, the reason why I really got into creating cards is because I was having this moment of, I don't know whether it's reflection or I was just confused in life, I think. I was thinking, okay, where am I heading? What's happening in my career? This was, of course, well before the promotion and everything came. And I was like, I want to make an impact in this world. So I thought, okay, let me start selling cards because I want to earn some money out of this and be able to give back to charities of, significance. And I wanted to pick a charity that was important to me, important to my loved ones, important to my ex at the time because I was with my partner as well. And I was like, give me something that's important to you because I want to be able to give back to that organization. And that was my way of trying to give back to the world.
Yeah.
And that's where this stemmed from. And why I chose cards is because I think there's nothing better than giving someone a handwritten card.
Absolutely.
And receiving
I
one.
completely agree. But with the way the world is so like digital now,
Exactly.
everything is digitalized. You sent a message
Yes.
on, say, like a story on Instagram, which is nice.
It's nice.
But I still love writing a Christmas card or a birthday card with their
Yes.
gift.
Yeah.
And I know how it makes me feel when I read it, and
Yes.
I want to share that same joy.
Exactly.
And that's why I completely agree.
And it's almost like my way of kind of bringing human connection back, because we're so digital now, like you said. Everything is socials, everything is a text message or something else. And I was thinking, slow down a bit. Write that card for someone you love or you care for.
I love that.
Because when you, and think about how it would feel for you to receive something like that.
Absolutely.
Because I think when you start thinking that way, again, you're giving back that kindness and love and compassion to the world. And sometimes you never know what that card could do for someone.
Absolutely.
Because when they read those words, it's a moment in time where they get to see, oh my God, I actually mean something to someone. And it's not just words you exchange, but it's written down. Someone took the time to write that down for you. And then it shows, not that you need that validation for yourself, but it's a confirmation of that validation, right? Oh, you actually mean something to that person. And you made that impact in that person's life, right? So that was just, I was so adamant to bring that back, because I've always loved that.
And I'm so happy that you did. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, that's just how I got into all of these things. It's just all a part of, me being creative as much as I possibly can.
No, and it's really nice. I really look forward to those occasions because of it.
Yeah.
And so if there's a woman out there, I mean, went through the same thing that you did, or currently in a situation where they don't know how to, like, they're in that situation right now, or they don't know how to choose the right thing for themselves, or they're stuck in a situation where they don't know what they should do in it, or what's right for them. What would you tell her?
I think the most important thing, I know, and I'll bring this back to the realization I had, is, do you feel at peace being in that situation? Are you thinking about, oh my goodness, can you manage? And that's the only reason why you're staying. Because we all can manage. We all will find our support system through that process and through that journey. But it takes a lot of courage to walk away from a bad situation, and do it. Take that leap. If it's not right for you, if it's not right for your situation, whether you have kids or not, whether you're a single woman or not, do what's right for you. Are you at peace right now? That's my question. It's like, do you feel at peace with this individual? Are you 100% yourself with that individual? Are
That's
you
nice.
loving the idea of what you've created in your head with that person? Or, the situation that you're in? And if you ask yourself those questions, I think then it's like, it comes down to exactly what my best friend told me. It's like, it's sure you've invested 7.5 years of your life, but can you do this for the rest of your life? And if your answer is yes, then sure, it might be worth still fighting for. Because I'll never say don't fight for a relationship, don't fight for a marriage, because I have always fought tooth and nail for every relationship I've been in. But if you cannot do that for the rest of your life, then it's time to walk away.
Okay. That's absolutely amazing, and that's so raw and so direct, and I love that you said that. Honestly, having this conversation with you, the story, your entire story, like, from your divorce, and then investing in a relationship, and then the progress you had in life with your career, things that you're doing for yourself, like focusing on you, putting those goals for yourself to see, to show yourself that you can do this. You can, I need to do this for myself first. I need to put myself first before having to find the best version of myself before I jump into giving myself again another chance of love, and being true to who you are. And doing things that actually, like you said, brings you peace and makes you happy. And I love that you shared that. It's not easy. It's the hardest thing to do, especially coming on a platform like this and talking about it. And I'm honestly in awe of you for doing that. And like, you have no idea what it means to me that you were here literally taking us through your story.
I mean, it's an honor. And thank you so much for giving me the platform to do it,
Yeah.
because I think it's important. I think when you asked me the first time, I realized it's like, it's okay to share,
Yes,
because I could potentially help someone by
Yes.
sharing the story.
absolutely.
And I don't think any of our history or our past defines who we are.
Yeah.
It's about how you come out of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like if anybody out there is going through something tough, or you've been through something tough, or you're in a situation where you don't know how to, get out of it, or what to choose. Do you choose yourself? Do you choose your family? Whatever situation you're in, it doesn't have to be the right thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have a process or a list, or there's no right or wrong way. It could be messy, but do what makes you happy. Do what makes you feel like brings you peace, brings you joy. Start something small, and then take it forward from there. I mean, and then I'm sure you'd be able to come out of this.
Yeah.
You've heard Charm. I hope Charm has inspired you, and if Charm can do this, why not you? Thank you, everyone, for listening to Charm's story.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you in my next episode of Why Me, Why Not Me?